The anomaly. The vastness of space stretched out before Zara's ship, a canvas of infinite black punctuated by distant stars. Her four-fingered hand danced across the holographic controls, fine-tuning her sensors. A smirk played across her iridescent blue face as she picked up the faintest trace of the signal she'd been hunting for weeks. "Got you," she murmured, her inner eyelids blinking in excitement. As if on cue, another ship streaked past her viewport, its sleek form unmistakable. Zara's smirk turned into a scowl. Nyla, her sister, always did have impeccable timing. "Zara," Nyla's voice crackled over the comm. "Fancy meeting you here, in the middle of absolutely nowhere." "Save it, Nyla," Zara shot back. "We both know why we're here. May the best archaeologist win." With that, Zara pushed her engines to the limit, shooting forward in pursuit of her sister and the mysterious signal that promised the discovery of a lifetime. The sisters' ships danced through the star-studded void, each trying to outmaneuver the other. Their rivalry, born in the halls of the Galactic Archaeological Academy and honed over decades of competing expeditions, fueled their breakneck pace. As they approached the signal's origin, their sensors began to go haywire. Gravitational readings fluctuated wildly, and electromagnetic interference clouded their instruments. "Zara, are you seeing this?" Nyla's voice had lost its mocking edge, replaced by a mix of confusion and awe. Before Zara could respond, space itself seemed to ripple before them. The stars blurred and shifted, revealing something that by all rights shouldn't exist. A sphere hung in the void, so massive it dwarfed any planetoid they'd ever encountered. Its surface was a patchwork of metal and stone, with glowing veins of energy pulsing beneath. It was a construct, not a natural formation, yet it rivaled a small moon in size. "By the cosmic architects," Zara breathed, her four eyes widening in disbelief. Their ships slowed as they approached the anomaly, all thoughts of competition momentarily forgotten in the face of this unprecedented discovery. "We should call this in," Nyla suggested, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. Zara was about to agree when she noticed something. A section of the sphere's surface was different, smoother. As they drew closer, she realized it was an opening, an entrance large enough for their ships to pass through. "Nyla, are you seeing that port?" Zara asked, already knowing the answer. "If you're thinking what I think you're thinking, it's a terrible idea," Nyla responded, but Zara could hear the excitement bleeding into her sister's voice. "Since when has that ever stopped us?" Zara grinned, steering her ship towards the opening. "Race you inside." Their ships, dwarfed by the massive sphere, slipped into the shadowy maw of the entrance. As they passed the threshold, a shimmering field of energy washed over their vessels. Alarms blared in both cockpits as their ship's systems flickered and died. "Zara, I've lost power." Nyla's panicked voice came through on emergency channels. "Same here," Zara replied, fighting to remain calm as her ship plunged into darkness. "Brace for impact." But the impact never came. Instead, an unseen force took hold of their ships, gently guiding them deeper into the sphere. The sisters watched helplessly through their viewports as they were pulled along a curved trajectory. Suddenly, light flooded their cabins. Zara gasped as she beheld a sight that defied explanation. They weren't inside a hollow sphere. They were looking at an inverted world. A landscape stretched out above them, below them, and in every direction. Rolling hills, forests, and gleaming structures clung to the inner surface of the sphere. A massive tower rose from the center, so tall it nearly connected both sides of the inner world. Artificial light bathed everything in a soft, golden glow, mimicking the sun that didn't exist here. "Impossible," Nyla whispered over the comm. "The scale, the engineering required." Their ships continued their guided descent, heading towards a clearing near the central tower. As they neared the ground, or what passed for ground in this inverted world, Zora felt a shift in the artificial gravity. By the time their ships gently touched down, her sense of up and down had completely reversed. Emergency power flickered back to life in their ships, allowing the sisters to run basic diagnostics. The atmosphere outside was breathable, albeit with a slightly higher oxygen content than they were used to. Gravitational fields seemed stable, and there was no detectable radiation. "We should wait for a rescue team," Nyla said, but her tone lacked conviction. Zara was already suiting up in her exosuit, a precautionary measure for exploring unknown environments, and missed the chance to be the first to step foot in here. Not a chance. With a resigned sigh, Nyla began donning her own exosuit. Minutes later, the sisters stood at the base of their ships, gazing up at the awe-inspiring vista surrounding them. The central tower loomed above, its surface a mix of sleek metal and what looked like grown crystal. Zara's suit sensors picked up immense energy readings emanating from the structure. "Let's head for the tower," Zara suggested. "It seems to be the heart of this, whatever this is." As they approached the base of the tower, they noticed something peculiar. The architecture, while alien and advanced, bore subtle features that seemed oddly familiar. "Zara," Nyla called out, her voice filled with wonder. "Look at these markings. Don't they remind you of the ruins on Epsilon IV?" Zara examined the symbols etched into the tower's base. Her sister was right. There was a striking similarity to the ancient human ruins they'd studied years ago. But that was impossible. Those ruins were barely 10,000 years old. This structure was orders of magnitude more advanced. Before she could ponder this further, a section of the tower's base shimmered and disappeared, revealing an entrance. Warm light spilled out, and with it came a gentle hum of machinery. The sisters exchanged a look. Years of rivalry melted away in the face of this momentous discovery. Whatever lay beyond that threshold would change galactic history forever. They needed to face it together. "Ready?" Zara asked, extending her hand to her sister. Nyla took it, giving a firm squeeze. "Ready." Together, they stepped into the tower. The entrance sealed behind them, and they found themselves in a vast, circular chamber. But it was the contents of this chamber that made them freeze in their tracks. Lining the walls, stretching up farther than they could see, were countless pods. Each pod was frosted over, but through the icy layer, they could make out shadowy figures within. Zara approached the nearest pod, her hand shaking as she wiped away the frost. She found herself staring at a face, humanoid, peaceful in its frozen slumber, but unmistakably not of any known galactic species. A holographic interface flickered to life next to the pod, displaying information in an ancient script that Zara could barely decipher. But one word stood out, sending a shiver down her spine. "Nyla," she called out, her voice barely a whisper. I think we found humans." As the weight of their discovery settled upon them, a low hum began to emanate from the pods. Lights flickered to life, and the fossilized air of ages began to stir. The sisters stood rooted in place, watching in equal parts terror and anticipation as the long-lost children of Earth began to awaken from their 800,000-year slumber. Awakening chaos. The low hum crescendoed into a cacophony of beeps and hisses as the cryogenic pods began their awakening sequence. Zara and Nyla backed away, their four eyes wide with a mixture of scientific curiosity and primal fear. "We need to stop this," Nyla hissed, her tentacle-like hair writhing in agitation. "We don't know what we're dealing with." But before Zara could respond, a blast of frigid air burst from the nearest pod. The transparent cover slid open with a pneumatic whoosh, revealing its occupant, a human male, his skin pale from millennia of slumber. The man's eyes snapped open, revealing irises of a startling emerald green. He gasped, choking on air that must have felt like fire to lungs unused to breathing for eons. His gaze locked onto the alien sisters, confusion quickly morphing into panic. "Where? What?" He sputtered, struggling to form words with a throat long dormant. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, his expression hardened. "Invaders," he roared, lunging from the pod with surprising agility. Zara barely had time to react before the human was upon her, his movements a blur of desperate strength. They tumbled to the ground, Zora's exosuit absorbing most of the impact. She marveled at the human's strength even as she struggled to break free. "Stop," she yelled, her translator working overtime to convert her words into the ancient human language. "We mean you no harm." But the human was beyond reason, driven by fear and disorientation. More pods were opening now, disgorging their human cargo into a world they couldn't comprehend. Nyla rushed to her sister's aid, attempting to pry the frenzied human off Zora. "Your kind has been asleep," she tried to explain, "for hundreds of thousands of years." The words seemed to penetrate the man's panic. He loosened his grip, confusion once again dominating his features. "Thousands of years," he repeated, his voice hoarse. A piercing scream cut through the chaos. A human female had emerged from her pod, her terror manifesting as a sonic assault that sent Zora's sensitive auditory organs into overdrive. All around them, humans were awakening, some reacting with violence, others with paralyzing fear. The vast chamber, once silent as a tomb, now echoed with shouts, cries, and the sounds of struggles. "We need to shut this down," Nyla shouted over the din, racing towards what looked like a central control panel. But as her hand reached for the controls, a voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Stop. Don't touch anything." All eyes turned to the source of the voice. A woman stood there, her pod at the center of the chamber. Unlike the others, she seemed calm, her eyes sharp with intelligence as she surveyed the scene. "I am Dr. Elena Chen," she announced, her voice carrying an authority that seemed to calm the panicking humans. "Chief linguist and cultural specialist of the Earth's Hope mission." Dr. Chen approached Zora and Nyla, her movements cautious but not hostile. "You are not of Earth," she stated, studying their alien features. "How long has it been? Where are we?" Zara, still catching her breath from the earlier scuffle, straightened up. "We are archaeologists," she explained. "We discovered this structure floating in space. By our calculations, your people have been in cryo-sleep for approximately 800,000 years." A collective gasp rippled through the awakened humans. Dr. Chen's composure faltered for a moment, but she quickly regained control. "I see," she said, her voice tight with emotion. "And Earth, our home." Nyla stepped forward, her voice gentle. "We have found ruins, traces of your civilization across the galaxy. But Earth itself, we have no records of its current state or location." The news hit the humans like a physical blow. Some collapsed to their knees, others hugged each other, seeking comfort in shared loss. Dr. Chen closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the impact of 800 millennia of absence. "We need to stop more pods from opening," Dr. Chen declared, snapping back into action. "We're not equipped to handle a mass awakening." She strode purposefully towards the control panel Nyla had attempted to access earlier. Her fingers flew over the alien interface with surprising familiarity. "The system's language has drifted," she muttered, "but the base structure is still recognizable." As Dr. Chen worked, Zara and Nyla did their best to calm the awakened humans, using their limited grasp of the ancient language to offer reassurances. Some humans responded with cautious curiosity, while others remained wary, huddling in groups away from the alien sisters. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Red lights pulsed ominously, and a computerized voice began repeating a message in the human language. Dr. Chen's face paled. "No, no, no," she muttered, her fingers dancing frantically over the controls. "What's happening?" Zara demanded, raising her voice over the alarms. "Someone's overriding the system," Dr. Chen explained, her voice tense. "They're initiating a mass revival sequence. If we don't stop it, all 10 million pods will open simultaneously." The implications hit Zora like a gravitational wave. The life support systems of the sphere, advanced as they were, might not be able to handle such a sudden population explosion. And the panic, it would be uncontrollable. Can you stop it? Nyla asked, moving to Dr. Chen's side. The human linguist shook her head in frustration. The override is coming from a secondary control room. We need to get there and shut it down manually. As if in response to her words, the far wall of the chamber shimmered and disappeared, revealing a long corridor stretching into the distance. That wasn't there before, Zara observed, her scientist's mind racing to understand the sphere's shifting architecture. The sphere is alive in its own way, Dr. Chen explained hurriedly. It responds to our needs and our fears. A tremor ran through the structure, and more pods began to open. The awakened humans grew restless, their fear feeding off each other. We need to move, Dr. Chen declared. You too, she pointed at Zara and Nyla. Come with me. The rest of you, she addressed her fellow humans, stay here and help the newly awakened. Try to keep everyone calm. As they raced down the corridor, the sounds of chaos echoed behind them. The tremors grew stronger, and sections of the passageway morphed and shifted around them. Whoever is doing this knows the systems intimately, Dr. Chen panted as they ran. They're not just waking people up, they're destabilizing the entire sphere. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a group of humans, clad in what looked like military gear. At their center stood a man with a scared face and cold eyes. Dr. Chen, he greeted, his voice dripping with false warmth. How kind of you to join us. And I see you've made some new friends. Colonel Blackwood, Dr. Chen replied, her voice hard. What do you think you're doing? The man's smile was razor sharp. Fulfilling our mission, Doctor. Earth is gone. It's time for humanity to take its rightful place among the stars, by any means necessary. As Blackwood raised a weapon of unknown design, Zara realized that the awakening chaos was just the beginning. The real conflict, one that could reshape the galaxy, was about to unfold. The hidden threat. The standoff in the corridor crackled with tension. Colonel Blackwood's weapon hummed ominously, its design unlike anything Zora or Nyla had ever encountered. Dr. Chen stood her ground, her eyes locked on Blackwood's. You're making a mistake, Colonel, Dr. Chen said, her voice steady despite the danger. We don't know anything about the current state of the galaxy. We can't just. A bolt of energy sizzled past her ear, leaving a scorched mark on the wall behind. Blackwood's smile never wavered. That's where you're wrong, Doctor. We know everything we need to know. We're awake, we have the technology, and the galaxy is ours for the taking. Before anyone could react further, the corridor suddenly shifted. Walls melted away, floors tilted, and in the ensuing chaos, Zara grabbed Dr. Chen while Nyla created a smoke-like distraction with her natural chromatophores. They ducked into a newly formed passageway, the sounds of Blackwood's frustrated shouts fading behind them. As they caught their breath in a small, dimly lit chamber, Zara turned to Dr. Chen. Your people, some of them seem to possess extraordinary abilities. Is this normal for humans? Dr. Chen's expression was grim. No, it's not. At least it wasn't when we left Earth. We need to access the ship's databanks. There's more going on here than I realized. Nyla, her skin still swirling with camouflage patterns, spoke up. We passed some kind of central data hub a few corridors back. Perhaps we could. She was cut off by a distant rumble. The whole sphere shuddered, and a faint cry echoed through the structure. What was that? Zara asked, her four eyes wide with alarm. The awakening, Dr. Chen replied, her face pale. It's accelerating. We don't have much time. They made their way cautiously through the shifting corridors of the sphere, guided by Nyla's keen sense of direction. As they traveled, they encountered more awakened humans, some confused and frightened, others displaying bewildering abilities, levitating objects, passing through walls, or manipulating energy in ways that defied explanation. This is wrong, Dr. Chen muttered as they helped a group of disoriented humans. These abilities, they weren't part of the plan. Something must have happened during our long sleep. They finally reached the data hub, a vast chamber filled with crystalline structures pulsing with information. Dr. Chen immediately set to work, her fingers dancing over holographic interfaces. As Zara and Nayla stood guard, they noticed a change in the atmosphere. The air grew thick with tension, and the ever-present hum of the sphere took on a more ominous tone. "Dr. Chen," Zara called out, "I think we need to hurry. Something's not right." "I know," Chen replied, her voice tight with concentration. "The sphere's systems are degrading. The mass awakening is putting too much strain on." "Wait, what's this?" A holographic display sprang to life, showing a recording of an elderly human in a lab coat. His face was haggard, his eyes haunted. "To whoever finds this," the recording began, "I am Dr. Alexander Novak, Chief Geneticist of the Earth's Hope mission. If you're seeing this, then our gamble has paid off, and humanity has survived. But at what cost?" The three listeners leaned in, transfixed by the scientist's words. Earth was not destroyed by natural causes or our own folly, as the general population was led to believe. We were attacked. A cosmic entity, a hive mind of unimaginable power, had set its sights on our world. We couldn't fight it, couldn't reason with it. Our only hope was to run, to preserve a fragment of humanity in the hopes that one day we could reclaim our place in the universe. Dr. Novak's image flickered, his voice growing more urgent. But we knew that humanity, as we were, would never survive in the harsh reality of the cosmos. So we took a desperate gamble. Using technology we barely understood, we introduced dormant genetic modifications into every human in stasis. Modifications that would activate and evolve over time, granting abilities that might give us a fighting chance when we awoke. The recording paused, and Dr. Chen let out a shaky breath. "My God," she whispered, "they turned us into weapons." Novak's image continued, his voice now filled with regret. But there was a price. The process was imperfect, rushed. Some may awaken with their minds fractured, unable to control their new abilities. Others may be consumed by power, seeing themselves as above the rest of humanity. And the greatest threat of all, the entity that drove us from Earth, it's still out there, waiting, watching. As the recording faded, an alarm blared through the sphere. The crystalline data structures pulsed an angry red. "What's happening now?" Nyla asked, her skin rippling with anxiety. Dr. Chen's fingers flew over the controls. The spheres picked up something. A signal, incredibly powerful, coming from, oh no. A holographic star map appeared, showing the sphere's location and a massive amorphous shape approaching from the depths of space. "It's found us," Dr. Chen whispered, her voice filled with dread. "The entity that destroyed Earth. Somehow, it detected our awakening." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. "We need to warn the galactic community. This threat, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered." But before they could formulate a plan, the data hub's entrance slid open. Colonel Blackwood stood there, flanked by humans crackling with strange energies. "Step away from the controls, Doctor," Blackwood commanded. "It's time for humanity to fulfill its destiny." "You don't understand," Dr. Chen pleaded. "We're all in danger. The entity that destroyed Earth is exactly what we've been preparing for." Blackwood interrupted, his eyes gleaming with fanatic intensity. "With our new abilities, we'll destroy it and take our rightful place as rulers of the galaxy." Zara stepped forward, her diplomatic training kicking in. "Colonel, please, we need to work together. The galactic community will bow before us or be crushed," Blackwood snarled. He raised his hand, and a ball of crackling energy formed above his palm. "Now you will give me control of this sphere, or I'll." His threat was cut short as the entire structure shuddered violently. Cracks appeared in the walls, and the hum of the sphere's systems rose to a painful shriek. "What have you done?" Nyla demanded, steadying herself against a console. Dr. Chen's face was ashen as she read the warnings flashing across the screens. It's not him. The sphere, it's dying. The strain of the mass awakening. The approach of the entity, it's tearing itself apart. As if to emphasize her words, a massive tremor shook the chamber. Blackwood and his followers were thrown off balance, giving Zara, Nyla, and Dr. Chen a chance to slip past them into the corridor beyond. As they ran, alarms blaring all around them, Dr. Chen shouted over the chaos, "We need to get to the control room. It's our only chance to save the sphere and everyone on it." Zara nodded grimly. And then, Dr. Chen's eyes were filled with determination and fear in equal measure. "Then we face a threat that destroyed our world 800,000 years ago, and somehow we find a way to survive." As they raced through the disintegrating marvel of engineering that had preserved humanity for eons, Zara realized that the true hidden threat wasn't just the approaching cosmic horror or the misguided humans with godlike powers. It was the weight of an entire species' survival, balanced on a knife's edge between extinction and a future among the stars. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of humanity, but potentially that of the entire galaxy. Cosmic chess. The control room of the sphere was a marvel of engineering, a perfect blend of biological interfaces and advanced technology. As Dr. Chen, Zara, and Nyla burst through the entrance, holographic displays sprang to life, showing the dire state of their situation. "By the cosmic architects," Nyla breathed, her eyes wide as she took in the information. "The sphere is on a collision course with Proxima Centauri II, a heavily populated world in this sector." Dr. Chen's fingers flew over the controls, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The awakening process and the sphere's defensive maneuvers against the approaching entity have drained our power. We're caught in Proxima Centauri II's gravity well, and we don't have enough energy to break free." Zara's mind raced, considering the implications. If we impact, not only will millions on the planet die, but the sudden release of 800 millennia of human potential could tear a hole in the fabric of space-time itself. As if the universe itself was emphasizing their plight, the sphere shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared, and more red indicators lit up across the control panels. "We need to evacuate," Nyla said, her voice tight with urgency. "Alert the galactic authorities. Get as many ships here as—" "No," Dr. Chen interrupted, her eyes never leaving the controls. "We can't risk spreading whatever has been done to us across the galaxy. Not to mention, we'd be leading that thing straight to populated worlds." A new alarm sounded, and a communication channel opened. Colonel Blackwood's face appeared on the main screen, his eyes wild with a mixture of fury and exhilaration. "Dr. Chen," he snarled, "surrender control of the sphere now, or I'll tear it apart myself. Can't you see? This is our moment. With our new powers, we can reshape the galaxy in our image." Chen's response was cut short as another tremor rocked the sphere. This time, it was accompanied by a psychic shockwave that sent everyone reeling. In the background of Blackwood's transmission, they could see humans writhing in pain, their bodies glowing with uncontrolled energy. "The entity," Dr. Chen gasped, fighting to regain her composure. "It's trying to influence us, just like it did on Earth. Blackwood and his followers are more susceptible due to their heightened abilities." Zara steadied herself against a console, her four eyes scanning the readouts. "Dr. Chen, look at this. The sphere's quantum entanglement drive. It's still functional, but dormant." Chen's eyes lit up with recognition. Of course, the drive was designed for emergency teleportation of the entire sphere, but it requires an enormous amount of energy to activate. "Energy we don't have," Nyla pointed out, her tentacle-like hair writhing in agitation. A moment of heavy silence fell over the control room, broken only by the constant alarms and the distant sounds of chaos echoing through the sphere. Then, Dr. Chen's eyes widened with a realization. "But we do have energy. An enormous amount of it, in fact." She gestured to the displays showing the thousands of awakened humans, many of them now crackling with barely contained power. We just need to channel it correctly. Zara caught on quickly. A synchronized release of energy from all the awakened humans, focused through the sphere's systems, could power the quantum drive and teleport us to safety. Chen finished. But it's risky. If we're off by even a fraction, we could end up scattered across the galaxy. Or worse. Nyla, ever the pragmatist, spoke up. And how do you propose we coordinate thousands of panicking humans, many of whom can barely control their new abilities? Dr. Chen's face set in determination. We'll use the sphere itself. Its systems are partially organic, designed to interface directly with human minds. If I can reconfigure it to broadcast a synchronization signal. She trailed off, her fingers already flying over the controls. Zara and Neela exchanged a glance, then set to work assisting her, their archaeological expertise proving surprisingly useful in deciphering the ancient human technology. As they worked, the situation outside the control room deteriorated rapidly. Blackwood and his followers had begun a systematic takeover of key systems, while other factions of awakened humans fought amongst themselves, their newfound powers clashing in spectacular and terrifying displays. All the while, the looming presence of the cosmic entity grew stronger, its psychic influence seeping through the sphere's weakening defenses. Strange, otherworldly visions began to flicker at the edges of their consciousness, whispers of incomprehensible knowledge and promises of godlike power. "We're running out of time," Nyla said, her voice strained as she fought off another psychic assault. "The entity is getting closer, and Proxima Centauri III is less than an hour away at our current velocity." Dr. Chen nodded grimly, making a final adjustment to the controls. "It's ready, but we need to broadcast the synchronization signal from the central spire. It's the only way to reach everyone at once." Zara's expression hardened with resolve. "Then that's where we're going. But we'll need help to get there and hold off Blackwood's forces." As if in answer to her words, the control room door slid open. A group of humans stood there, led by a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to shimmer with internal light. "Dr. Elena Chen," the woman said, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "I am Dr. Samantha Reeves, head of parapsychology for the Earth's Hope mission. We've come to offer our assistance." Chen's relief was palpable. "Dr. Reeves. I thought. We feared." Reeves held up a hand, a sad smile on her face. "Many of us didn't survive the awakening, it's true. But those of us who did, and who managed to retain our sanity, have been working to stabilize the situation. We've gathered a group of humans who can control their abilities. We're ready to help." With newfound allies, the group formulated a plan. They would fight their way to the central spire, hold off Blackwood's forces, and broadcast the synchronization signal. It was a desperate gambit, a cosmic chess move with the fate of not just humanity, but potentially the entire galaxy hanging in the balance. As they prepared to leave the control room, Dr. Chen turned to Zara and Nyla, her eyes shining with a mixture of gratitude and determination. "I know this isn't what you signed up for when you discovered our sphere," she said softly. "But I want you to know, whatever happens, your people will be remembered as the ones who gave humanity a second chance." Zara placed a four-fingered hand on Chen's shoulder, her alien features set in an expression of solidarity. "We're all in this together now, Dr. Chen. Human, alien. Those distinctions seem rather small in the face of what we're up against." Nyla nodded in agreement, her chromatophores swirling with patterns of resolve and unity. "Indeed, today we all stand against the darkness together." With a final check of their makeshift weapons and a shared look of determination, the unlikely alliance stepped out of the control room and into the chaos-filled corridors of the sphere. The next few minutes would determine the fate of humanity, the survival of a populated world, and potentially the future of the entire galaxy. The cosmic chess game had reached its critical move, and the pawns were ready to challenge the kings. Redemption's edge. The journey to the central spire was a harrowing gauntlet of shifting corridors and desperate encounters. Dr. Chen led the way, her newfound psychic abilities allowing her to navigate the sphere's ever-changing layout. Zara and Nayla flanked her, their alien physiology proving surprisingly resilient against the chaos around them. Dr. Reeves and her team of psychically gifted humans formed a protective perimeter, deflecting attacks from Blackwood's followers and the increasingly frequent psychic assaults from the approaching cosmic entity. As they neared the base of the spire, a massive tremor shook the entire structure. Cracks appeared in the walls, and the air itself seemed to ripple with otherworldly energy. "We're running out of time," Dr. Reeves shouted over the din. "The entity is trying to tear the sphere apart." They burst into the central chamber, a vast space dominated by a pillar of swirling energy that stretched from floor to ceiling. But they weren't alone. Colonel Blackwood stood at the base of the spire, surrounded by his most loyal and powerful followers. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and arcs of energy crackled around his form. "You're too late, Chen," Blackwood snarled, his voice distorted and inhuman. "The power, it's glorious. We are becoming gods." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her own eyes shimmering with barely contained energy. "This isn't godhood, Blackwood. It's corruption. The entity is using you, using all of us. We need to work together, or we'll all be destroyed." Blackwood's response was a blast of pure energy that Chen barely managed to deflect. The battle erupted in earnest, human abilities clashing in a dazzling and terrifying display of power. Zara and Nayla found themselves fighting back-to-back, their archaeological tools repurposed into makeshift weapons against humans with godlike abilities. As the fight raged on, Dr. Chen fought her way to the spire's control interface. Her fingers flew over the ancient controls, reconfiguring systems and preparing the synchronization signal. But with each passing second, the sphere's shuddering grew more violent, and the psychic pressure from the entity intensified. Suddenly, a piercing scream cut through the chaos. One of Blackwood's followers, overwhelmed by the entity's influence, began to transform. His body twisted and warped, taking on an otherworldly appearance that defied description. Others soon followed, their humanity dissolving as the entity exerted its will through them. "Chen," Zora shouted, narrowly avoiding a tendril of corrupted flesh. "Whatever you're going to do it now." Dr. Chen nodded grimly and slammed her hand down on the final control. The spire pulsed with blinding light, and a wave of energy washed over everyone in the chamber. For a moment, all was silent. Then, every human in the sphere screamed in unison. The synchronization signal tore through the minds of the awakened humans, aligning their chaotic energies into a single, focused purpose. Even Blackwood and his corrupted followers were caught in its grip, their powers momentarily turned from destruction to salvation. Dr. Chen stood at the heart of it all, her body arched in agony, as she served as the conduit for the combined power of millions. The sphere itself began to glow, the quantum entanglement drive humming to life with unprecedented energy. Zara and Nayla watched in awe as reality itself seemed to bend around them. Through the chamber's windows, they could see the approaching planet, the stars, and the looming presence of the cosmic entity all stretch and distort. With a flash of light that outshone suns, the sphere vanished from its collision course with Proxima Centauri II. For a timeless moment, there was nothing. No light, no sound, no sensation. Then, with a thunderous crack, the sphere rematerialized in a distant, empty region of space. The sudden silence was deafening. Slowly, the survivors in the central chamber began to stir. Dr. Chen collapsed, caught by Zora before she could hit the ground. Blackwood and his followers lay unconscious, the corruption seemingly purged from their bodies. Did we make it?" Nayla asked, her voice hoarse. Dr. Reeves, battered but alive, checked a nearby console. "We did. We're thousands of light years from where we were, in an uninhabited sector. We're safe, for now." As the immediate danger passed, the full weight of what they'd accomplished began to sink in. Humanity had survived not just 800,000 years of sleep, but an encounter with the very force that had driven them from Earth. The sphere, while damaged, had endured. Over the next few hours, as the sphere's systems stabilized and the awakened humans began to recover, a new challenge emerged. What now? Dr. Chen, having regained consciousness, called a meeting of the surviving leadership and their alien allies. The central chamber, once a battlefield, now served as an impromptu council room. "We can't go back to sleep," Chen began, her voice still weak, but filled with determination. "The entity is still out there, and it knows we survived. We need to prepare." "Prepare for what?" one of the human leaders asked. "War." Chen shook her head. "Not just war. Coexistence. We're not in the galaxy we left behind. There are other species, other civilizations out there. We need to find our place among them." Zara stepped forward, her alien features set in a solemn expression. "My people will vouch for you in the Galactic Council. Your arrival will cause concern, undoubtedly, but your actions in preventing a catastrophe will speak in your favor. And the knowledge you possess about this cosmic entity will be invaluable," Nyla added. "The galaxy must be warned and prepared." The discussion continued long into the artificial night, as humans and aliens alike grappled with the monumental tasks ahead. There were wounds to heal, both physical and psychological. The humans' newfound abilities needed to be understood and controlled. The sphere itself required extensive repairs. But amidst the challenges, there was hope. Humanity had been given a second chance, an opportunity to rejoin the galactic community not as conquerors, but as allies in the face of a greater threat. As the meeting adjourned, Dr. Chen found herself standing with Zara and Nyla at one of the chamber's vast windows, gazing out at the unfamiliar stars. "You know," Chen said softly, "when we left Earth all those eons ago, we thought we were running away, preserving a fragment of humanity in the hopes of one day reclaiming our home." She turned to her alien friends, a smile on her tired face. "We never imagined we'd be coming home to a galaxy full of new allies and endless possibilities." Zara placed a comforting hand on Chen's shoulder. "The road ahead will not be easy. Your people have much to learn and much to prove." Nyla nodded in agreement. "But you've already shown incredible resilience and adaptability. Those qualities will serve you well in the challenges to come." As they stood there, an unlikely trio of human, archaeologist, and alien, the first streaks of light from a new star system began to illuminate the sphere. It was a new dawn, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. The game of cosmic chess was far from over, but with this move, humanity had earned itself a place at the board. The pawns had become players, ready to face whatever the universe had in store.